Update. Am I the a-hole for telling my mom she's dead to me if she mentors my bully? Original post. So my 16 male mom 40s is a teacher at my school. Our school has a special elective you can take, which is being a teacher's aide during your elective period. It's mostly stuff like grading papers for them, making copies, mentoring, etc. It's pretty much always just a teacher's favorite student at a time. I found out at the beginning of the semester that my mom chose Dave, 17 male, to be her teacher's assistant. Dave has made my life a living nightmare since middle school. He has bullied me mercilessly both physically and emotionally since 6th grade. I don't want to get into everything he's done to me, but everyone is fully aware of it, including the school and my parents. There have been countless meetings with school administration and suspensions on his end, but it never stopped him. Since we've been in high school, I haven't had to see him as much, which is a relief, but the times that I do are always terrible. When I found out that he was her new teacher's assistant, I was obviously very hurt and confused. I asked her, why would you want to spend extra time with someone who made my life so terrible? She said that she had him in one of her classes, and that he really isn't such a bad kid, but he has a really terrible home life that she can't tell me about that makes him act out. For the record, my mom has always had a soft spot for kids who come from bad homes. I reminded her of all the things he had done to me, and she said that she understands, but he really needs help right now. I told her I get that, but why does it have to be you? We have a huge school full of teachers and staff who can mentor him. Why does it have to be you? She told me to stop being selfish, and some kids have it harder than I can imagine, and she's just trying to help. I was honest with her and told her that if she continued to have him as her aide, she was dead to me. She was choosing him over me, and she would no longer be my mother. I would no longer talk to her, and the minute I turned 18, I was moving out, and she would never hear from me again. She rolled her eyes and said I was being dramatic, but after a couple of days of ignoring her, I was grounded. It didn't change my mind, and my dad then tried to force me to talk to her. I still refused. So they pretty much took everything away from me one by one for the past few weeks. I no longer have my car, computer, guitar, and most recently my art supplies. And I have to come home from school and go straight to my room, and I'm not allowed out except dinner until I start talking to her again. They don't realize that this is just strengthening my resolve. I'm going to sit in this empty room every day silently until I'm 18, and they'll never see me again. My mom keeps coming in crying and begging me to talk to her, which makes me feel kind of bad, but she still won't remove Dave as her aide. Am I taking this too far? I just feel so betrayed. Now for the top comments before reading the update. I'm sure Dave has a rough life, but it doesn't excuse his cruelty towards you. I would be extremely hurt if my mom sided with my bully. Your mom should ask one of her colleagues to take him on as an aide, and then tell Dave that given his prior history with you, it is no longer appropriate for him to be her aide. Unfortunately, she's obviously not going to do that, since she herself has resorted to bullying her own child for not just getting over it. The fact that they are punishing OP over this is wildly devastating. An ongoing conversation would have been one thing, but to see your child so upset and hurt and punish them for it, mom is freaking depraved. Yes, OP, tell your mother you now understand why she chose to mentor Dave. She's just as much a bully as he is, so it's no wonder they get along so freaking well. Not the a-hole. If my mother would have done that to me or one of my brothers, we would have treated her like a traitor. She puts her savior complex, or whatever this is, over your mental health. She is in addition to that disloyal to your family. Just ignore her and organize your life. Do good in school and leave her behind when you are old enough and independent. I cannot even compute how people do this to their own blood, but here we are. I wish you the best. I couldn't figure out what was bugging me about this. It's the mom's savior complex. You got it down perfectly. She wants to be the teacher who reformed her son's bully at the expense of her relationship with her son. Well, when it's finally shown she's a bad parent and he bails at 18, she'll get her recognition. Charity is great when you make others suffer for it and you get all the credit. There's a saying, it is easy to be generous with other people's money. Now for the update. A lot has actually happened since last week, and while nothing is really fixed, I think things are going in the right direction. On Friday, I got called out of class to the guidance counselor. When I got there, my mom and the assistant principal were there as well. The counselor asked me to sit down and said that me changing tracks from college to trade, like I mentioned in my last post, was a big decision. And she wanted to sit down with my mom and me to figure out if this really was the best for my future. She first asked me if I would fully explain why I wanted to switch. I explained the whole situation from my perspective and about how I was being punished. I said that if this is how I was going to be treated from now on, I wanted to become independent as soon as possible, and going to college would have me relying on my parents for longer than I would like. She then asked my mom if she had anything she would like to add. My mom tried to downplay the whole situation at first and make it look like I was just being stubborn and disrespectful. But as the counselor asked her more questions, it became pretty clear that my side was truth. After this, the assistant principal stepped in and said that a teacher's aide was not worth all of this turmoil and that Dave would be switched with another teacher. The counselor then asked me if this would help me to start working things out with my mom. I said not really, because it wasn't even her choice, and she hasn't even admitted she's done anything wrong. She then asked my mom if she was willing to apologize for anything that had happened. My mom gave a half-hearted apology, where she said things had gone overboard and she never meant to hurt me so much. The counselor asked if I would like to apologize for anything as well, and I said not really, but nobody pressed me on it. The counselor then said about my transfer. It was too late for the semester. What she suggested is that my mom and I, and possibly my dad, should go to a family counselor for the rest of the semester. I would stay in my current classes, my parents would give me all of my stuff back, and we could see if we can come to some kind of peace before next semester. She then asked my mom that if after that I still had not changed my mind, would she accept the class changes. My mom said no at first because she wanted me to go to college, but I told her that she had already failed me as a mother once. Please don't do it again. She got really quiet and said she would agree to it if that was what I really wanted. When I got home, all of my stuff was returned to me. I also started talking to my mom again and just kind of felt like there wasn't a point to ignoring her anymore. I don't treat her like a mother or anything anymore, but I'll answer her if she asks me a question. It just feels like that now that I have a plan, a lot of my anger is gone, and I just see her as a person who happens to live in my house. We haven't scheduled our first counseling session yet, but I don't see it changing much anyway. The damage is done, so I don't see myself changing my mind. That's pretty much it. I probably won't update again unless something crazy happens or something. Thank you to everyone who gave me good advice. Update us when you graduate, or let us know how the trade route goes, or update us once you finish the semester. We're all here cheering you on. Honestly, I'm glad that you got your stuff back. But it's wild to me that it took your assistant principal saying WTF, this isn't worth it, to switch out Dave. I think your plan is good. The fact that your mom hasn't apologized speaks volumes. I won't count that half-baked apology. Yes, I really don't understand his mom. What is her deal? What is her problem? What is her thought process? It's wild to me that after everything, she still can't see she needs to talk to her kid and explain where her head is at without denigrating her own child. I'm just flabbergasted. Her hero complex is higher than being a parent. I suspect you nailed it right. It's mind-boggling she was willing to hurt her own kid this badly. You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. I'm so sorry your mother isn't capable of seeing how she's hurting you, but at least it's a change for the better. Having grown up around multiple insanely self-centered and narcissistic grown-ups that pop out children without any expectation of raising them, I believe every word. Fun fact. The worst parent I know, a dude who fathered and abandoned at least 15 children across multiple states. Settled down in his 60s and is now raising one son with a random lady. Here's the kicker. By all accounts, he's an amazing dad. People are insane. Next story. Am I the a-hole for snapping back at my mom and saying, why can't you just be like my cousin's mom when she was comparing me to my cousin? I, 16 female, have a cousin, 16 female, who my mom often compares me to. My cousin has really good grades, her lowest being like a 96, while my highest grade is a 73 in PE. Yes, I know it's bad. Me and my mom got into an argument a few days ago about my grades. My grades are a thing we argue about a lot. My mom had checked my grades while I was out at work, and they were 24, 17, 73, 0, 36, non-graded class, 58, and 42. I know they're horrible, but I can't help it. The reason my grades are so low is because I never have the energy or time to do assignments. I wake up, go to school, after school go to work until 11 p.m. on school nights and 1 or 2 a.m. on weekends. Then I go home, clean, and if I have an appetite, then make food and then go to sleep and the cycle repeats. I'm honestly beyond exhausted when I get home. Oftentimes I can't sleep, and I don't even have the energy to change clothes or shower. It's gross, I know. No need to lecture me about it. During our argument, my mom said, "Why can't you be more like your cousin?" It's something she said before, but I was already in a really bad mood and snapped back at her saying, "Why can't you be like cousin's mom?" She looked at me like she saw a ghost, and I started apologizing profusely. She slapped me and told me to go to my room, so I did. That night, I tried to go to talk to her, but she just ignored me. I know what I said was wrong, but I can't help but feel she deserved it. For context, my cousin and her family are pretty wealthy. Her mom is a doctor and her dad is a lawyer, so I'm sure you can imagine their total income. While me and my mom barely survive on our combined income. I have to give her 95% of my paycheck, including all tips, so I don't have much. I'm a waitress, and what I do get goes into food. I often go days without food while my cousin eats out almost every day. They'll invite me, but I can never go due to work or my mom not allowing me. My cousin and her family also go on vacation 3 to 5 times a year, which I'm invited to but can't ever go to. I know my mom tries her best to provide for me and her, as my bio dad bailed out when my mom got pregnant with me, but I often feel myself resent her because I see her going out on dates in luxury restaurants which are all paid for, while I'm stuck at work, starving. While on a date, she always orders more than she can eat and take the rest home for herself. I'm not allowed to have any of it or I'll get in trouble. She'll also often bring guys over, and I'll have to come home after a long day to sounds of my mom having fun in the bedroom. I love my mom so much, but it's been a few days since we talked, and I feel like such a bad daughter. I'd love advice on how to fix things or what to do about the situation. So, am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. I don't get the idea you have that your mother is some kind of a saint. She's busy getting laid while you're working your fingers to the bone paying her rent, and she doesn't even take care of you. Your mother is a piece of turd. Agree, she's a POS. She can't even bother to share the nice food with her hardworking daughter. Sounds like mom is a hoe. I wouldn't be surprised if she isolated a dad away from Opie. Sweetie, there is nothing you need to apologize for. You can let her know this is how you feel every time she says it to you. Your mom should be caring for you and not tearing you down. The fact that she will eat good while you go without is beyond me. Do you have a trusted adult you could talk to? Are you able to get your own account? As a mother, I will say what your mom should say. I am proud of you. Thank you for doing your best while helping your household. The fact that you work and go to school is amazing. Don't ever quit. Please don't think that this is all life has to offer you. I see so much strength and potential in you. You have a fighter spirit. What are your plans for after high school? Thank you. And I have my cousin's parents I can talk to, but it's always with my mom's supervision, and there are some things she forbids me from talking about, which I have not included in this post. About after high school, I don't really have any plans as I know my grades are really bad, so it's likely I won't get into a college or something. Last story. Am I the a-hole for demanding my dad's wife cut her only family out of her life over a prank? My dad married Bridget 10 years ago. My brother and I were a-hole kids who did not like her, so we put purple dye in her specialty purple shampoo for blondes. It didn't even work as well as we thought, because we didn't realize dye needed to soak in. So she was left with a few purple streaks she couldn't get out. Now, I'm not saying it was okay, but Bridget lost her mind. She was hysterical and screaming at my dad she was going to hurt us, saying she would never be in the house with us again. At one point, she began scratching herself because she was so distraught. Bridget ran off and my dad lost his crap on us. He said we ruined his life, and she was the only thing that mattered to him. Bridget refused to return to the house if we were there, so he banned us from the house. Our mom had primary custody anyway. He kept saying he would never forgive us. When I graduated high school, he refused to help me with college. I ended up working multiple jobs to get by, and my brother simply never met. I always thought this would blow over as I thought she was his midlife crisis. As before meeting Bridget, he was the definition of a stoic hard-ass. Nope, he was acting like some obsessed teen boy. Well, we recently reconnected and they're still together. My wife wanted me to play nice with him for financial reasons and for our daughter's future. She even wanted Bridget to help her get a job. My dad is willing to help us out but shows no remorse and says we need to understand she is his life. Well, they recently celebrated their 10th anniversary, and Bridget's brother-in-law decided to reminisce and put some purple stuff in her hair, which is washable, but she had a hell of a time getting it out of her very blonde hair. Don't get me wrong, he got smacked for that. But 1, there was no hysteria. 2, my dad was laughing at her and made her pose for a picture. 3, there was 0 ultimatum. Apparently, he gets a pass because he's a huge prankster. Also, he got her way worse than I did. When I found out about this, I was irate. So it is okay for a grown man to do, but not a dumb kid? I called him up and said that Bridget needed to cut them out of her life if my dad wanted any relationship with me. My dad said I was being ridiculous, as they were her only family and only parent figures. I reminded him I was his freaking kid. He claimed she was much more anxious and insecure when I did it, and claimed that it was different because he did it with love, and she was scared of what my brother and I would escalate to. I told him I hope the next prank is near and they can both buzz off, and unless she cuts out her brother-in-law and sister, no more contact from us. My dad is backing Bridget 100%. Info: how many other pranks were prior to the purple hair dye? That wasn't a prank, they were intentionally malicious. They hated her and wanted to punish her. Sounds like OP hasn't changed much. Yeah, it was a malicious attack. It's different too, coming from someone who hates you and wants to hurt you. So you were 17 when you did your prank to a woman you admit you didn't and still don't like. Of course she had a bad reaction, and her husband backed her up. Do I think it was too far to ban you guys permanently? Yep. But you did have your mom to stay at, who had primary custody. This getting back in touch with dad is financially motivated, by your own words. What her prankster sibling did, while similar, had nothing to do with you. They have an entirely different relationships than you did, as your dad's kids who never liked his wife. Whatever trust was building, you destroyed with that prank. Of course you're the a-hole. You also seem to not realize you have no leverage when it comes to your dad. You only came back around for financial reasons, and for this pawns you apparently can't even support yourself. So how is you threatening to cut contact from him a threat? You reached out, not him. Idiot. Definition of don't threaten me with a good time. First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for saying I don't care about making things better? I, 16 female, live with my dad and his family. My mom died last year. I was raised mostly by her for 10 years because when I was 5, she and my dad broke up and he moved across country to be with his now wife. I only know this because it's pretty coincidental that he left the state and moved in with her very fast, considering the move happened mere weeks after he moved out of mine and my mom's. Maybe I'm wrong, but I was never dumb. It's clear he left to be with his current wife. I saw him for 3 weeks in the summer and every other spring break until I moved in after my mom died. I've got to be honest, I didn't want to move. I wanted to move in with my grandparents who still live in my home state. But my dad insisted I needed to live with family, so now I live with him and his wife, plus her 2 kids and their 3 kids together. My stepsister is the same age as me, and she's upset I don't call her my sister, because she always called me her sister, and she fights me on it, which my dad gets involved in. He has tried to get me to accept the family more now than ever. I have told him I am not interested, and I just want to go home. Because I didn't adjust in the last 11 months, he wants us to do family therapy. I have told him I'm just not interested. He said it's not fair to push everyone away. I told him he was the one who left when I was 5 and that none of them were exactly my family because they were mostly strangers up until I moved in, and honestly, my dad has been mostly a stranger. I stayed with him so little and had such little communication with him. I don't care about having a better relationship. I would rather be home with the family I know, who were willing and able to take me. I would still have many friends around me too. My dad got mad the other night because he told me he had booked a session and my response was okay. He told me he wants me to help make things better in the family. I told him I don't care about making things better because I don't think of us as a family. I lost my nuclear family. I know we're supposed to be grateful for who we have and all that crap, but they have never felt like my family. Not even my dad. I barely remember when he lived with us. Barely remember seeing him more than once or twice a year, and I don't need or want him. Am I the a-hole? My mom never said a bad word about my dad. She never discouraged the relationship. But after a point, I did grow tired of going out to see strangers. I had no real relationship with my dad. And to put it into perspective, I asked him to move back home, closer to me basically, when I was maybe 8, and he told me he couldn't leave his family. So, no, I don't care about having a relationship with him. I want out. I am willing to do whatever to get out. But we will never be a family. More added info and a kinda update. It's late, so I'm not replying to everyone. Plus, there is a lot of you, and I do appreciate that. Like a lot. I asked my dad about individual therapy like many of you suggested, and he said no. He said it would not help if he and the others weren't involved, so there's that. I also never went along with living here, but I was given no choice. My grandparents tried, and I know they spoke to the woman/social worker who told me I needed to live with him because he is my father and my parents, blah blah blah. I made it very clear I did not want to live with him, but that held no weight with the decision. Now for the top comments. No a-holes here. You're just a kid who's been dealt a crap hand. I don't blame you for being angry and not wanting to put in the work to make this family function. I don't blame your dad for wanting to make it work either. He may have made some really big mistakes, but it sounds very much like he loves you. Go to therapy, if only because you're a teenage girl and that crap is hard enough on its own. I know, I used to be one. I would ask for individual therapy for a bit before family therapy becomes a thing though. It would give you a moment to work through some of your crap before you've got to work through the family stuff. No, dude. He could have tried to make it better before her mom died, but he only visited her so often. He's only trying now that she's dead. I doubt his reasons for doing so are as noble as you make them out to be. Family therapy still might be a good call, though. It might take a therapist to listen to how Opie is feeling and convince her father that what he's trying to push on her isn't actually what she needs right now. Not the a-hole. I'm so sad for you that you weren't allowed to move in with your grandparents. I mean, your mom died, and then your dad made you move across the country to stay with people you only know from spending a few weeks with them every year. Far from friends and other family that lived closer to where you lived with your mom. Maybe use the therapy session to talk about how upset you are because you were forced to move away from your remaining family and had to change schools, and everybody in your father's family appeared to think you should have adjusted by now. I feel the same. I know and love my grandparents. They are people I have spent time with all the time since I was a baby. I grew up seeing them every single week, except for weeks I was with my dad. And now I'm with a man I haven't really known since I was 5, who has a whole bunch of family I don't really know, and they expect me to love them and want them in my life when I would gladly never see them again and be with my real family. Maybe. I was thinking I would just sit there quietly and let everyone else talk, but that might get the point across more. Thank you. I'm so sorry you have to deal with this at all. You have been catapulted to a whole new world that you feel like you don't belong. It basically is. The thing is, maybe if I had seen them more before, I would feel some sort of attachment, but I could never see them again and it wouldn't hurt and I wouldn't miss them, not even my dad. It was a chore the last 2 years when my mom was alive to visit him. Not the a-hole. Your dad and his family need to realize that real life is not the Brady Bunch. Maybe therapy will help him see that what he's doing isn't really helping you. It's understandable that you don't think of these strangers as an immediate happy family. Maybe, if he's open to letting you go back to your grandparents, you agree to travel more often to see him and spend time with him. Otherwise, he risks you cutting him off completely the minute you turn 18, and that would be sad. He obviously loves you if he's willing to go to therapy to fix this. I would agree to that, to get home, to get back to my family. I just want to go home. If he keeps me here, once I do more home, he can forget about ever seeing me again. I know that sounds childish and immature, but I don't feel enough closeness that I would want to keep a relationship after everything he has done, regardless of him loving me. I do think he loves me. It's just he hasn't given me so many reasons to love him. Now for the second story. Am I the a-hole for telling my biological parents that I don't care for them and never will after my adoptive parents passed away? I'm a teenage boy in senior year of high school. My bio mom and dad gave me away as a toddler when they were extremely poor to make the raising of my sisters, their 3 daughters, easier. Great form from the people who should love you like no other, right? I lived with my lovely adoptive parents, an elderly couple, from ages 6 to 16, until they died weeks apart from each other. After my adoptive mom and dad both passed away, I had to go back to the same kids' shelter for a few months. The shelter had already been in contact with my bio parents about potentially taking me back, but there were conditions. We had to simulate living together for a few weeks. If that was successful, I could stay with them longer until I left high school, entered the workforce, or began tertiary study and had enough cash from part-time work. I've been living with my bio parents and my sisters for over a year, and I'm nearly 18. I really don't like the group of them. They see me as a nuisance or some sort of a troublemaker, given my self-reliance and tendency to stick to myself and my friends. They are blatant in treating my older sisters, who are in their 20s, better than I. My mom and dad give them a monthly allowance, on top of the welfare allowance they already get for their studies, drive them to and from college, pay more attention to them, and just treats them better than me, their 4th child. They don't give me an allowance even though they clearly can, nor do they spend that much time with me. I've pointed out the unfairness to them and they deny they love their daughters more than me. They say it's equal, and that I simply don't demand more from them, which they apparently love about me. But I've realized long ago that they're lying. They don't see much hope in a waste of time like me. They even called me that when I told them I wanted to work in construction after doing hands-on training, in comparison to my sisters who are lawyers and doctors to be. Over time, I've stopped participating in house duties, started and I'm preparing to move out to live with friends, packing and everything. I'm nearly an adult. My parents have noticed this, as have my sisters, and have grilled me on it one evening when I was packing my clothes. So, I simply told them that I know they see me as a mistake of theirs, and I'm moving out to stay out of their lives. They asked me what I was talking about, and I just couldn't take their faking it anymore. So I told them that I know they didn't care that much for me, and I don't care of any of them either, and I never will anymore. My mother burst into tears. My sisters just scoffed and rolled their eyes. And my dad yelled at me to apologize to all 5 of them. But I couldn't look at them anymore, so I just went to another room to cool off. It's been a few days now, and I'm itching to get out of here. But I'm thinking it might be childish of me to do this. Am I the a-hole for saying what I said to my biological parents about my lack of love for them? Now, for the top comments. Not the a-hole. I'm so sorry that you have endured so much rejection and loss. These are horrible conditions for a child to grow up in. I don't think you were wrong for speaking truth to power, but I do believe that once you've moved out, you won't get much, if any, support from these people anymore. So, it will be a hard road for you. Here's my 2 cents about a career in construction. You can go on a site as a laborer, but try to get into a union apprenticeship soon in a construction trade you like. Electrician, carpenter, sheet metal worker, etc. Your earnings will be much greater, and I think you will benefit by the training. A construction trade is a very decent way to make a living, but I will warn you that most people in construction do start to have physical problems by age 45 or so, and therefore you should plan all along to move into construction management, estimating, or something more of a desk basis. Learn all you can about the mathematical or computer aspects of the business. Your future is bright. Always remember the kindness of your adoptive parents. Thank you for your kind words and advice. I'll keep it in mind for sure. Architect here. Construction careers can be great options, but definitely go to the actual certified trades route or construction management. There is more flexibility there for you to move into management roles, which are easier on the body if you ever develop physical issues. The millennials have experienced that building some level of flexibility into a career is very advantageous in a way that earlier generations often don't think of. Obviously, you are Gen Z, but I think it will still apply to you. Not the a-hole. The first mistake was not involving a therapist at the very beginning. You were a minor, so this is not your mistake. Losing your adoptive parents like that must have been traumatic, and everything that came after has been just as difficult. Understandably, your relationship with bio family is dysfunctional. You get to choose who you want in your life. If you want to create a bond with bio family, I would only do it if a family therapist were fully involved in the process. There's too much to address on your own. If you don't want to have them in your life, that's fine, and you should feel able to make that decision guilt-free. Being blood-related doesn't mean we owe people anything. That's what we call gaslighting. Your family is gaslighting you to stay so they can continue to emotionally neglect you. It's clear that they've been very neglectful of you from the start. I mean, they gave you away for F's sake. In my opinion, you should leave and never look back, because you're right, they do not care about you. Nope, I think they're gaslighting/projecting to avoid the guilt they should be feeling. OP is a living reminder of all their failures, and they're displacing their anger on him, not the a-hole. I'm so sorry, OP. You deserve better. Not the a-hole. You absolutely aren't selfish whatsoever. You are an adult, and you get to decide who it's worth living in your life. Now, for the last story, am I the a-hole for refusing to pay for my dad's retirement home fees? My parents divorced when I was a baby, but my mom encouraged him to have a good relationship with me. However, my dad was never interested in that. He'd come see me for a few hours on the weekends and call it a day. He wasn't a constant in my life, but I liked him and enjoyed his visits. He remarried shortly after his divorce and had 2 more kids that I would play with occasionally. As I was growing up, he and I had arguments about how he'd treat my siblings and how he treated me. My dad adored his other kids and he'd take them on trips, go to their school events and pay for whatever they needed. I invited him to all my school plays, graduations, etc. He never came. I won't lie, it hurt. I was his first child, and he didn't seem interested in me. Plus, he was very vocal about his dislike towards my mom, something that I hated because she was the one taking care of me. When I went to college, he agreed to pay half of the expenses. I was thankful for this, and I thanked him each time he'd send a check. He came to my graduation ceremony, and when it was over, said that his responsibilities towards me were over, and he didn't owe me anything anymore. He didn't need to say it, but it was a goodbye. It broke my heart. He didn't return my calls or reach out to me in the following years. Yesterday, I received a call from my brother telling me that my dad's health had deteriorated and the best option for him would be a retirement home. His second wife divorced him too. My dad is on the older side, so I wasn't surprised. My brother spent like half an hour on the phone describing this place that would cover his needs, make him comfortable. Turns out this place is expensive as hell, and he wants us to pay for his stay there. Monthly, I'd be paying around $2,000, so would my siblings. I told him I couldn't afford to pay that amount monthly, much less during a pandemic. He didn't take it well, and shortly after, I received a call from my sis demanding an explanation. I told her that I didn't make enough money to support myself and pay my share for his stay in the home, to which she said that I was ridiculous because I wasn't married nor had any kids. So basically, where was all my money going then? I told them that we could look into other retirement homes or hire a nurse. But apparently, I'm being cruel and ungrateful because our dad deserves the best care he can get and the home is convenient for all of us. Close enough to our own houses so we can visit him or be there in case of an emergency. I told them that if they were not going to make an effort and look into other options, then I wouldn't either, and I wouldn't pay my share. Before I hung up, my sister told me she'd sue me for negligence. Like, WTF? I don't know how to feel about all of this. He did pay for half of my college tuition, but he was a detached parent who made it very clear that I was more of an economic burden than a child he loved. Am I being ungrateful? Should I suck it up and pay? Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Why would your step-siblings expect you to pay an equal share for his care when you did not receive an equal share of his love and attention growing up? They don't seem particularly bothered by your exclusion either, so they can figure it out themselves. Not the a-hole. 1. Either your sister won't sue or won't be successful. 2. You had no obligations to explain why you wouldn't pay. Remember that the next time that you are speaking with siblings. The less that you say, the better. 3. Your dad made a concrete decision to end his financial support of you. Time for you to return the favor. Again, you need not explain your reasoning on this point to anyone at any time. And 4. Siblings picked the home, which means that they picked the price. The price is their responsibility. If you pay any amount, expect aggressive communications as to why you aren't paying more. No good can come of it, and it will likely lead a lot of grief for you. Thank you. I'm worried about the lawsuit. Is it possible for her to actually sue me? Is there any leg ground to it? I can't see what she'd sue you for. You've done nothing illegal in saying you won't pay your share, unless there's some legal agreement you haven't mentioned. Don't waste your money on a lawyer unless you receive papers. Do not give your siblings or the retirement home a single solitary cent. Did your father own a house, a car, have social security or some kind of retirement, 401k, IRA? Who has power of attorney? Who makes medical decisions? Who controls your father's money? Your half-siblings chose a place that cost way more than $6,000 a month, since I assume your father himself is also using his retirement income to pay. I'm so sorry to be so suspicious and cynical, but I'd like to see a copy of your father's will and know who he's named as executor. I'd also like to know if he's named one of your half-siblings as the payable on death on his bank accounts. I'd also like to see an accounting of where his money is presently being spent. I don't think this is merely about keeping dad safe and comfortable. I think it's about your half-siblings maximizing their inheritance by trying to guilt you into covering your father's expenses. You owe nobody anything. Not the a-hole. Don't give them a cent. I never thought of all that. My dad isn't rich by any extent. So I'm guessing that if he is paying something, it's the bare minimum. I'm pretty sure I'm not included in his will, and I have no idea who's responsible for his money. Probably my sister. She's his second child. Now that I think about it, he did get hit economically when he divorced his second wife, and maybe that's why they're reaching out to me for money. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe.